Welcome everybody, I am 6am Comics, and this is reviewing my 9-year-old's comics. We've got something a little different for you this week. Apparently the kids at Nolan's school haven't been reading a ton of Marvel or DC, but instead have shifted their focus to an entirely different genre of comic book, manga. Something of which I know very little about, and by very little, I mean absolutely nothing. Nevertheless, in an effort to please the fans, Nolan has decided to venture into uncharted territory and try his hand at achieving the sacred status of a mangaka. With this week's comic, that's right, everything's backwards. Powerhouse. I'm never going to get used to that, the right to left thing. So let's just get into it. Oh gosh. Beginning with the overall presentation, this is amongst the shortest of worldwide productions to date. Maxing out at 4 pages in length, the 4th page simply containing nothing but the words, "To be continued." In traditional manga fashion, it reads right to left, and is strictly black and white. The cover is beautifully illustrated in marker, and features a lone hand stretched outward with a colorful flame emanating from the palm. I personally love the logo with its stylized fiery S. And just in case you mistook this book for a traditional American comic, there is a note up top reminding you that this comic is a Japanese comic presented in English. Speaking of English, let's give this bad boy a read. As I've mentioned ad nauseum, I've never read manga until now, so the fact that I'm being forced to read this comic right to left is doing a number on my brain, so bear with me. We begin with a kung fu master named Master Kiat, or Kayat. Kiat sounds more Japanese, meditating on the floor. We're informed that he is indeed missing an arm, but what he lacks in limb, he makes up for in magic. Also, that appears to be his right arm, but does the backwards nature of a manga comic also mean that right is left? I'm sorry, I don't know how any of this works. Something startles Master Kiat. A dark figure appears from an open door. Oh, it's you! Ohio! I know. Wrong kind of Ohio. Leave your complaints in the comments. Konnichiwa, father. The kid couldn't figure out the proper spelling of Ohio, but he nailed Konnichiwa? Amazing. Surprised, Master Kiat shouts, "Is that a fortune cookie?" Why do you say it like fortunes? It's fortune. And yes, and here I always thought it was 4chan cookie. Also, I like how he's just sort of waving that little nub in anger. It's great. Enraged at the sight of such an offensive food, I'm guessing because it's Chinese and not Japanese? Do they do fortune cookies in Japan? Give me a break already. I grew up on McDonald's and Little Debbie snacks. I'm not a cultured man. Where was I? Enraged at such offensive food, Master Kiat activates his magical form. A giant, one-winged phoenix. Jeez, the missing limb carries over. That's rough. With the massive caw, he asks, "Were you in the city?" "I don't understand. What's the big Before he can finish his sentence, Master Kiat interrupts. "They hate us magic possessors." So, with those words, Master Kiat's son takes his magical form as well. Okay, I have no way of confirming or denying the validity of this translation, but apparently Master Kiat is sarcastically saying, "Great." I attempted to research this using Grok, and it nearly broke the AI, so take that as you will. But on the off chance that this is some highly offensive grouping of Japanese characters, I apologize. He's just a child. Master Kiat breaks from his magical form and lands back on the ground, falling over. His son lands with a bit more grace shortly after. He jokingly taunts, "Lend you a hand?" Oh, that is ice cold. Master Kiat reluctantly accepts the offer and allows his son to pull him to his feet. But suddenly, a giant man crashes through the wall, forcing the father and the son to retake their magical forms. Whoa! To be continued. Short and sweet. The storytelling in this comic was different than the usual worldwide comic. We're introduced to a very bizarre father and son duo with unique flaws and interactions. We have the one-armed Phoenix, disciplined and traditional. He clearly fears something about the outside world, the city if you will, and chooses to remain secluded and in meditation. Meanwhile, his son freely roams the hostile territory of said city with a reckless demeanor, confident in his magical abilities to protect him. While the father seems wiser, the son appears to be more powerful, and yet their two ideologies clash to a degree that the two would fail to be a powerful duo should the opportunity arise. Now that a giant assailant has entered their home, can these two successfully fend them off, or will their differences divide them and lead to their defeat? I don't know. And there you have it. Powerhouse. A solid effort into the world of manga. At least I think it's a solid effort. I've never read manga, so if that's what it's like, well then, not bad. I don't really know how you're supposed to rate these without being too culturally insensitive. So I'm just gonna give it 10 Tetsuos and 1 big Kaneda.
Tetsuo! 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 Tetsuo!
I'm sorry. Sub it, like it, share it, I'm out.